Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, A Moment with Monica. And my name is Monica Theophilus, and I love to equip, encourage, and empower others through the Word of God. Welcome back to another Talk Through It Thursday. And it's so crazy because it's like so fitting. Because I went to Women Evolve last week. I was there from Wednesday to Saturday. And it was just amazing. It was an amazing experience. It was my first time going to the conference. And so I took it in. My friends surprised me with it, blessed me with it. And I just took it in because this has been a season of surrender for me. This has been a season of just a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of suffering. And when Sarah Jakes went on that night, and that first night, day one, which was really Thursday, and she spoke. Hold on, because I just killed a spider, y'all. So I'm just like, where you at? Where you at? I just killed one, and it better not be another one, because we don't have time for this. Anyway, we're back. But I do not like animals. I'm not an insect animal person. I'm not. But that first night, Sarah Jakes spoke, and I forgot what it was, the title, but I have it in my journal. I did take some notes, but I would love to listen to that message again and again. And it was so crazy because she preached this the first night. Then the last night, the third night, or the morning of, she went and kind of like added some more to what she preached. And I'm like, I just hope the person who recorded is gonna give us the first night and the third, like the morning, and put the pieces together of the whole sermon, because it was basically two sermons. It was one sermon, but like in 2 different days. And so I hope they put it together. But she said, you would have to, sometimes when grief doesn't want to let you go, you have to grieve and believe at the same time. And when I tell you, it just broke me down. It took me. I felt understood. I wept. I laid it down there. That was my surrender. One of you guys said that you want me to talk about the topic of surrender. And that was my surrender. Because when God called me to move out of my apartment, I'm really thinking in my head, all right, I have this idea of what's going to happen, of what God is going to do and how things are going to work for me. I have these expectations. And I'm like, okay, if 1 or 2 things go wrong or go a different way, no problem. But when I tell you everything that could go wrong, and everything that I wanted or expected is nothing compared to like where I'm at now. It looks nothing like that. And so these past couple months, as January went by, February, March, April, and the waiting and the believing and the hoping, I've had to keep surrendering. This is what I wanted, but this is not it. This is what I wanted, but this is not it. I've surrendered my career. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna be a teacher forever. I've had to surrender my career. I've had to surrender my education. Oh, this is what I thought I would be doing. This is what I thought I was going to go up. I thought I was going to go back to grad school at this. I've had to surrender that. I've had to let go of the expectations for my family and what God is doing, because in this season, my family and I have been grieving. We've lost 2 people in the family already. And right now we have another family member who is honestly dealing with a sickness, battling with it, and we're believing God to turn it around. But what do you do when you went and you did what God told you to do, and God has you, out on a limb? Like God told you to move. God told you to go to this job. God told you to do this, and you do it. And it just seems like everything is falling like apart. I think I've had to just surrender that grief. I was grieving. I think I've been grieving since, honestly, these past 4 years have been grief after grief. But really this year now, it has been grief in grieving people. And whereas the other past years were just grieving plans, ideas, dreams, and hopes, and also grieving some relationships, but those people are still alive, praise God. Whereas now in my family, we've been dealing with some deaths, people dying, and now someone else in our family who we are just praying for just a miracle for them to live. And so it's just been a season of suffering, a season of loss, and me just trying to ask God, like, what's happening here? What's going on? And I went on a walk today. I went on my prayer walk. That's why I'm all like this and everything. And I was talking to God, and I found that the Lord was saying to me, because I'm like, God, what is it? I've surrendered everything. I've given everything to you. Even at the conference, I had to lay down grief, which was the biggest thing that was honestly holding me down. I felt so boggled, just weighed down by the grief, that I felt like even though I wanted to say or share or respond in ways, I just couldn't. And so I laid that down there and came back here. You know, when you come back home, you got to protect what God gave you and what God said to you, and come back, and there's still more things happening. And I went to the Lord today on my prayer walk, and I'm thinking about surrender. And I'm thinking about the woman who basically, she only had, you know, this little thing of flour left. Elijah calls for a famine. He calls a drought. And he calls it because the Israelites, you know, they're sinning. They have fallen or given themselves over to false gods. The god of fertility, Baal or Baal, however you say it. I always forget how to say it. And they have given themselves over to this god, to worship this god of fertility. And Elijah is like, you guys are going to know who the real God is, because they relied on this so-called god Baal to basically make rain come down. And Elijah was like, I'm going to let you guys know, like, there's only one true and living God. And so because of that, Elijah calls for a famine. And so God leads Elijah, because of course he calls for a famine, so that means he's also going to be living in this famine. And God tells him to go to the brook. He goes there. The brook dries up. He was being fed by the ravens. Everything dries up. And God tells him now, okay, I'm going to send you to this woman. And he goes, this woman with her son. And he goes, and there's some conflict there. And the woman now has to surrender what she has. She has to surrender what she has in her expectations and what she believed, what she believes was going to, or believed what was going to happen to her. But I'm going to give my revelation of what I got from this, and how I believe the Lord is saying for us to really just learn to surrender. Because some of us may be like, God, I've given you everything seems lost, what's going on? And God just may be saying, okay, you did that. Okay, God, I gave you my heart. Okay, you gave me that. Now I want you to surrender what you do have left and allow me to use it. Allow me to make it a masterpiece. Allow me to make this into a miracle like he did for this woman. And so Elijah and the widow, he tells her to go to the widow. He tells him to go to the widow. Then the word of the Lord, 1 Kings 17 verse 8 to verse 16. 1 Kings 17 verse 8 to all the way to verse 16. Elijah and the widow. Then the word of the Lord came to him, get up, go to Zarephath that belongs to Sidon, and stay there. Look, I have commanded a woman who is a widow to provide for you there. So Elijah got up and went to Zarephath. When he arrived at the city gate, there was a widow gathering wood. Elijah called to her and said, please bring me a little water in a cup and let me drink. As she went to get it, he called to her and said, please bring me a piece of bread in your hand. But she said, as the Lord your God lives, I don't have anything baked, only a handful of flour in the jar and a bit of oil in the jug. Just now I am gathering a couple of sticks in order to go prepare it for myself and my son so we can eat it and die. Then Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go and do as you have said, but first make me a small loaf from it and bring it out to me. Afterward, you may make some for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord God of Israel says. The flour jar will not become empty and the oil jug will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the surface of the land. So she proceeded to do according to the word of Elijah. Then the woman Elijah and her household ate for many days. The flour jar did not become empty, and the oil jug did not run dry, according to the word of the Lord he had spoken through Elijah. And this famine was 3 years, y'all. It did not run dry, she didn't run out of flour, she didn't run out of oil. And she didn't run out for 3 years. And sometimes we're in a season where so many things, I just threw it on my bed, sorry. Sometimes we're in a season where it's almost like, God, what is happening? Everything is being taken. Things are being lost. Nothing is working out. Nothing, like the doors are closed. I'm knocking, but it's like, what's going on? And may I submit to you another thought, is that you need to surrender what you do have. You see, the lady had just a little left, and she was like, I'm just gonna go prepare myself to die. That's it. And God was like through Elijah, God's like, no. Elijah's like, make me some bread. And I'm telling you, this, you're not gonna run out of anything. You're not gonna run out until this famine is over. You're not gonna run out. And she did not run out. And so Elijah and her son had enough to eat for 3 years. Okay. God provided for them, and she had to surrender what she had left, despite her being a widow, despite her not having enough of what she maybe wanted to have, not having enough supplies, not having enough things stocked up. In spite of her suffering, she had to surrender the idea, of this is what I wanted, this is what I expected. Now we're in a famine. This is all that I have, this little jar, right? We got some flour, just a little bit enough. We got a little bit of oil. These are all that I have. And she had to surrender that to the Lord, because the Lord will use even the little that we do have left and make a miracle out of it. He will do something out of it. He will turn this mess into a masterpiece. He will make all things beautiful again in his timing. And I believe that with many of us who are in a season where there's just loss and there's heartbreak and there's suffering and it's dark and it's lonely and it's difficult, and you get up day in and day out and you're like, I'm fighting through, I'm pushing through. Okay, God, I'm surrendering. Every day you gotta wake, I'm surrendering. Another surrender, which is such a beautiful song that they sung. I can't wait till you guys hear it because it's so beautiful. Another surrender. I felt that song to the core, because it was like I've been surrendering these past 4 years. Another surrender. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing left. All right, I've surrendered even my heart. There's nothing left for me to surrender. And I just heard the Lord say, just use what you have. What you do have left. What you do have, use that. Use that, because there's going to be glory even in that. My glory is even in what you have left. And so for anyone who's in a season of like surrender, and you feel like, my back is against the wall. What is it? What is it? I just want to tell you, use what you have left. Surrender what you have left. Surrender what you thought couldn't be used to keep you, to sustain you. What you thought couldn't be used, because she honestly thought, listen, this is it, and me and my son, we're gonna go bye-bye. Like, that's it. What can God do with that? That's it. And God supplied it. It did not run empty. It did not run dry. He supplied it for 3 years. It may not have been what she wanted. It may not have been what she expected. It may have looked crazy, but God kept her during those 3 years of famine. And that's what God will do for many of us in a season of surrender, where it just feels like, when is the door going to open? When am I going to walk into all that I've been praying for? Sometimes it's just God sustaining you little by little, each and every day, and you surrendering what you do have to the Lord. Can you surrender your creativity if that's all that you have left? Can you surrender that? Can you surrender your time if that's all that you have left? Can you surrender your worship? What is it that you have left that the Lord has allowed and wants to multiply? And so I just kind of wanted to share that about surrender, and kind of like just where I've been with my journey in surrender, and also where I've been with my journey in grief, and really just laying that down to the Lord and at his feet, but also looking at my life and saying, okay, God, what can you do here? Like, what do you need me to do? And the Lord doesn't need me to do anything new. He doesn't need me to put anything, I feel like sometimes we're so hard on ourselves, because we feel like after I surrender, I need to pick something back up. And it's like, no, what you have, the Lord has allowed. And he can make do with that. He can make a miracle out of that. And it doesn't have to be a 20-year miracle, a 30-year, like, it doesn't have to be 20 years from now, 10 years, 5 years. Because sometimes we think, glory after this is eternal glory. But sometimes God just wants to do a miracle even in the present times. It could be tomorrow that you get that email, that phone call. It could be later on tonight. It could be at any time. But I would just say, surrender what you do have and let God use it. Let him turn it into a masterpiece. Let him make sense out of it for you. But surrender what you have. And so that's my talk through it Thursday. I hope that this message blessed you. I hope that you got something out of it. And I pray that you would lay down whatever it is that you haven't, and you would allow God to give you a new perspective, new eyes to see what he's doing. And even if you don't get all the answers, that you do surrender your heart to the Lord. But that is it from me. I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.